I am a man with many enemies.
The elevator opens for no one.
The Boston Red Sox.
And plans on making me.
The mayor of Boston. The governor of Massachusetts.
I'm paralyzed into you.
Boston Globe.
And plans on making me.
It's a war.
And plans on making me.
We're going to battle it out.
We'll sit there.
Everyone looks like
We'll learn a fucking thing.
My dick's so big, doesn't even matter. He's 2 feet tall.
And nobody will get in trouble. Now, of course, everybody will kill each other after watching.
He's gonna fucking open his mouth, it'll fall right in.
Just too busy to accept it.
And it is going to be, when it's done, the most successful podcast in the history of mankind.
And we already met.
Listen, there's only one Minihane show.
Everyone looks like everyone.
It's right here.
And plans on making me. And plans on making me.
No protection.
All right, guys, and we are back for another episode of Quantum Kirk. We are recording this on Wednesday, December 13th. Do I have the date correct here?
Nailed it.
Yes, wonderful. Wednesday, December 13th. We should have an episode airing tomorrow, and then this one will air next week. And we have some big surprises coming. I don't want to announce anything until it happens, but we got some stuff coming in as far as guests, which should be fun. I do want to kick off today's episode. I had the day off from work today, was doing some Christmas shopping down in the East Bay. My dad is a big Harley guy, so I went down to pick up Harley Davidson gift certificates, and was trying to avoid, if anyone is from Rhode Island, they know the Henderson Bridge in East Providence. It's crazy down there right now. It's 2 hours to go 5 minutes. So I'm using GPS. I'm trying to avoid things, and I got pulled over. I got pulled over by a Seekonk Town cop for having my phone in my hand. So he pulls me over. He's like, I get it. Everyone's using GPS, this, that. So he says for me to spread the word. He didn't give me a ticket. As long as I spread the word, hey, don't use your phone while you're driving. So this is me spreading the word. And now this is where I'm connecting it to the Minifans. Hold on, this gets better. I then get texts saying, hey, man, don't speed in a school zone. Hey, man, you shouldn't get pulled over. By Minifans. By Sneakers, by Steve from Providence, by Meemaw.
Uh-oh.
How they knew.
Oh, no.
How they knew that I got pulled over. I'm scared now. I'm worried there's a GPS tracker on my truck.
There is.
Yeah, Montante's getting calls from them saying, hey, does David drive a green truck? Why is he getting pulled over? Guys, I'm freaked out. So, but I did tell the nice police officer who let me off without a ticket with a warning that I would spread the word. So, don't do like me and Dave Cullinane. Don't look at your phone while you're driving. Even though I was checking my GPS, I wasn't texting or anything. That's why he let me off. But yeah, so Sneakers is texting me all afternoon, just warning me about the police and things like that. So I don't know how these guys, John, do they have scanners that they just listen to? I'm a little rattled here, to be honest.
Their roots sink deep in everything. They know everything at all times. There's nothing you can sneak by these guys. There's nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, is it possible that the police officer was a Minifan or a big fan of Kirk?
You know what, Danny? Anything is in play at this point. Anything is in play. And I'm rattled because Danny, no ticket, not arrested. When Jay got arrested and Sneakers ended up finding it or whatever for the suspend. Great, that's public record.
Right.
You would literally have to know about this traffic stop, and they knew the exact location. They're like, "What are you doing in Seekonk?" It was crazy.
Would you rather the ticket than them knowing? I think I would.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
For sure.
Right. Yeah. So Montante's sending me cryptic texts and calling me. It was a wild afternoon. So once again, don't be like me. Hands-free driving, everybody. Hands-free driving. It's law.
That's freakish, man.
Public service.
Yeah.
The eyes of the Minifans are everywhere.
Are everywhere. If I see this cop at the next live show, I'm gonna shit my pants. But anyway, let's get into it, Danny. Please. This is one of my top 10 episodes. This was a request by me when we were going over the episode. So this is an all-time favorite of mine. It's 2 hours. It's a classic episode. Danny, please give us the date and the episode name.
So it did take me a minute to hunt this down because the primary subject of this episode that we wanted to talk about isn't in the title or the description. Typical Steve Robinson, old school title. So this was August 30th, 2019, and the title is Kirk Minihane is Worried, Aunts and Ants, and Blind Mike's New Character.
Okay. So it's funny he did 3 different things because Danny and John, this is a classic 3 episodes in one show. Which I feel like in the beginning era, KMS 1.0, you would get a lot of as we re-listen to these. So let's start it off.
Definitely a classic early episode.
Yeah, this is, like I said, this is still an all-time top 10 for me. This is, especially the last half hour when Blind Mike gets rolling. This is a all-time Blind Mike episode. This would be a Mount Rushmore Blind Mike episode. Here's an idea for those other idiots. They should do something like that. Mount Rushmore of each guy's favorite episode. John, pass that along.
Ooh, there you go. Smart.
Yeah. Thank you. So we're still in Red 13 studio, Danny. We are not into the main studio, although Steve talks about he is studio hunting at the end of this episode. He does bring that up, that he's looking to, that's like his main focus. I do want to start off. They ripped Cullinane for about the first 5 minutes of this episode. Cullinane has just had his second child. He's had Chase. He was tweeting at Brandy Love while in the delivery room. And then he's mad at Mike and Kirk for like making fun of him last episode. Now that Steve is back from his vacation. And I guess he was mad that he wasn't there to defend himself. But there's one clip in particular that really caught my attention. So John, if you'll play that first Cullinane clip here, I kind of want to go from there with it.
How dare he's not in the room to defend himself.
He's welcome to come in here.
Why are you accusing him of lying?
Like he's trying to hurt the
he's welcome to come in. I thought it was a comedy show. Why would he come in if it's a comedy show?
I don't understand I don't understand it. I don't think the act is funny, like the character. Like, I'm inclined just to tell him to get the fuck out, honestly, if he's going to do this. I don't even get it.
It's almost like, you know how we said, like, Andrew Dice Clay, Dice was a character and Andrew Dice Clay became that guy? It's almost like Dave is becoming the guy that we've made up. Like, he never played the character, but now he's evolving into that character.
I don't get it. Like, and I don't understand what he's... I just don't understand. He did this fucking shit all day yesterday, and then was talking about how he's... The only thing I care about is when he talks with the advertisers and merchants. Yeah. I'm like, what the fuck is he... First of all, I actually don't believe that.
What did he say about Murchison? I didn't.
He said he talked. Do you see this? Where five different advertisers.
He said he feels like we're being ungrateful because he's hustling for advertising, running the Instagram account. He's had to talk with advertisers about the Murchison thing.
Yeah,
and then we turn around and pretend like he's not actually doing something.
What do you mean pretend?
It's a fucking. What is he talking about?
I'm just giving you his perspective.
Did you talk to him?
Yeah, we texted back and forth.
Not.
All right, so that's great. Now it's kind of full circle, Danny. I'll let you go in a second here. It's full circle because people have been saying that Cullinane's appearance as his third chair is him amplifying a character, is him like, and Blind Mike kind of says here that basically like he's playing a character that they created on the show. And then once again, Cullinane and that goddamn Instagram account, huh? That guy just can't shake that Instagram account. That's the thing that caught my eye, Danny. Go ahead.
Well, you can't shake the Instagram account, but he was the one that wanted to run it in the first place. And for a period of time, that's all he was doing for the show. I mean, he was trying to sell, I guess, but I mean, who sold more ads, him or Mike Montante? I think they're tied for 0, right?
I love how Kirk keeps having these guys with these fake sales jobs on this show. Kirk is the king of hiring people for fake sales jobs.
So here's one thing that stuck out at me about this whole little episode here. It was really funny and a lot of throwbacks and the whole thing about the delivery room and the Brandy Love and, a lot of stuff that was very familiar. But a lot of this centers around Cullinane being sensitive, which that was always kind of the big thing is Dave's got thick skin. You can say whatever you want. Like a lot of things didn't really bother him in studio, even when he was getting fired, basically a couple of years later, just a completely different guy than the one they're describing. And I remember at the time of listening to this episode that I was almost equating Cullinane with more like a Mark Moroso type. Like he just seemed like a crazy neurotic nut. And
Yeah.
once he became the producer full time, because we did have the 2 weeks of him, right? A couple months before this. But once he became the full time producer and we kind of got to know him better, it doesn't really fit the character here. So, some little parts do, and the lashing out and the swearing and over fucking, some of that was definitely apparent. But just the sensitive nature and I'm not here to defend myself, and the back and forth with Mike. And Mike is very different in this relationship too. Just to think a couple years later, Cullinane's picking up Mike every day to go to the studio, and they're BFFs.
Well, I think Mike was already a fan of Cullinane. I think Mike liked Cullinane on the show more because he wasn't like the idiot, so to speak. So I think they were already like, as I think it comes up later where Mike is like kind of hurt that Dave is like mad at him. To be honest with you,
yeah, that's.
But
fair.
I'll say that. But that, Danny, that's my whole point. We come to find out that Dave might have been playing a character here in the beginning. Like that's kind of like Mike's accusation in that clip.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
He's becoming the character that we created on the show for the first 3 weeks.
Yeah, which I guess. I mean, is Cullinane a method actor? I mean, is this? I think that actually gives him a lot of credit. Which I mean, I think I like Dave a lot, but that is a lot of credit to give somebody to like really play this character and stick with it. But yeah, he may have been onto something early on.
All right, what else caught you guys' attention? Anything jump out at you guys for the first 15? Because that was basically the first 15 minutes is them rehashing the Cullinane and why is he flipping out like. Basically, Cullinane didn't expect the fact that he's not there anymore. He didn't want them to make fun of him anymore, which is kind of crazy. And I think that's what it was. I think he was missing being in the studio with those guys. Is that really
that caught me as well, Dave? Because Kirk brought that up. He's like, "Well, people are in the Kirk Minihane orbit, and then they're not, and they miss me." And my question now is, how much is Cullinane missing the show? I mean, we've seen him back as third chair a couple times. He's playing it cool. He's not playing crazy Dave, but is there a little bit of that longing for days past?
Well, or is he over it because he got to do it? I think at this point he had a taste for 3 weeks and he didn't get the run in the main chair. I mean, I don't know. Dave's an enigma, man. I'd love to have Dave give Dave some goddamn truth serum and be like, what are you doing? What is he? I want to know what his job is. When he wakes up in the morning, what does he fucking do? All of these guys, all of these guys, Andrew Augusta, what do they do? How many hours, if they have to do a punch card, how many hours are they working? All these guys. I
think there's a difference. There's a difference between activity and working. And I think, this is a case where these guys they're always on Twitter, they're online, they're interacting, maybe they're on the phone, they're looking stuff up. Is it always well guided? Possibly not. Is it always helping the show? Probably not. But there's always something happening. There's some busybody.
But I'll say,
occasionally
Danny,
you're going to land on something.
But Danny, this is what I mean about Cullinane, though, and John, you can help me out here too. I feel like he's online more than when he was producing the goddamn show.
Oh, no doubt.
Do you guys get that? That's where I'm lost.
Well, and even back then, Steve talking about the 40 Twitter notifications, right? I mean, just going crazy on Twitter. Whereas then he kind of quit Twitter for a year, just about, and then wasn't posting for the show.
Yeah, I don't understand the thought process, I guess.
I can speak to once I was in the producer race, right? And then once that all goes away, right? It's the worst feeling in the world. And that whole I want to be back in the world kind of thing, Kirk is dead right. You would do anything to get back in the even say something where Kirk makes fun of you is better than nothing. So I can give him that. But I mean, Dave Cullinane, folks. It's
a masterclass.
Yeah,
but maybe he got his fill. I mean, he truly got his fill. I mean, it's possible. And he just wants to come in the third chair once in a while and kind of shit on people, and then go back to the real estate videos or whatever.
He big timed us. I was one of his guys. I'm an original Cullinane guy to get the cold shoulder from him for the shows.
Fucked up. Cullinane was just
it's jarring. It's jarring.
I was like, what the
Yeah, you guys were actually had a relationship, right? I mean, that's tough.
He helped me with Talk About Say Nothing. I would be able to DM him stuff and give us tips on I've interacted with Cullinane for years while he was producer of the show. So when I thought asking him, Danny, I thought that was going to be literally a slam dunk. I was a little shocked,
and I was looking forward to it because I mean, there's hundreds of episodes we could have done with him basically, and I thought his excuse on the main show about not being good at this is ridiculous. I mean, that's not,
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. That's what he told me in the DM too, and I'm like, all right, Colin, just fucking be honest with me and tell me you just don't want to do it anymore. Like you're all set.
Yeah, he can come on and shoot the shit with the best of them. I mean, that doesn't.
And then I found out he might be doing
knowledge in history.
And then I found out he might be doing Beyond Average Mick. That's just
right to the heart.
That's just broke my heart. Breaks my heart.
That'll be heartbreaking, but I think what would be even worse is if he does Kirk more before us. That'll be tough.
Yeah.
We'll get Mutt then. If he does that, don't make us. We'll get fucking Mutt. Don't you dare make us.
Don't make me do it, Colin. All right. So this kind of bleeds into the next part of the show. This is a very famous story. Kirk's told it a couple times, but this was the first time he told it on the Kirk Minihane show. So it definitely it caught my attention, Danny. As an old EI listener, the EI people will get this part. So if you're not an old EI listener, when Kirk brings up the name Larry Johnson, this is what he's referring to. So I really want to play this clip. So for a lot of people who might watch with us who weren't EI fans, this is for you. So go ahead, John. Play that Larry Johnson.
This is a long one, so if you want me to clip it, just give me a hand sign.
Okay.
I love stuff like that. So Larry Johnson hosts a weekend show at EEI. He's been hosting it for not that long. I'd say like 75, 80 years.
Yeah.
The show's fucking terrible. He's on with this guy, Craig Mustard. Larry Johnson's a very nice guy. Craig Mustard's just a dick.
Is he?
One of the biggest assholes you'll ever meet in your life.
He seems a little pretentious.
Asshole.
I don't know him. But.
So they do their show together, and LJ's this big religious guy. I think he's like a minister. He's a cartoonist in Boston as well. He's a cartoonist at the Globe for years.
Right.
I don't know how long ago this was. A few months ago on the weekend.
I think it was right when you start, right before the show started.
We never talked about it here, I don't think, did
no.
we? I don't know. We did a long podcast once talking about God. I don't believe in God. I believe in God, whatever. So he also was always flirty with girls, perfectly. I'm not talking like creepy. Well, maybe a little creepy, but not anything, whatever.
Nothing dangerous.
But you could tell he liked women.
Sure.
So
he's a Protestant.
I don't know, Steve.
Is that
so?
That would kill at the religious
at
the Christian comedy clubs.
What is that?
that would
have
destroyed.
What is that? What do you mean
so
by
he's
that?
a Protestant. Am I right, folks?
As opposed to a Catholic priest.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah, but if we can get serious for a second.
Have the chicken. Ladies and gentlemen, the comic stylings of Mr. Steve Robinson.
Sounds like there's a few Orthodox Jews in the back.
All right, a priest and a rabbi walk into a bar.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, did I say that?
Don't bring him into this.
What is it with Jesus and those abs? The guy really worked out.
Think you could fight back, huh, people?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. Oh, Mary. It was the first time. Oh, yeah. Of course. Yeah. Total virgin. Oh, yeah. You think her mom and dad bought that bullshit? Oh, please. Please.
You know, they say it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. I always felt a little excluded.
You know why? He's a Protestant. He's a Protestant.
So that is listen, I'm gonna say Danny and John, I don't know if you guys agree with me. This is August of 2019, Danny, is that what you said?
That's correct.
Okay. It's right before Labor Day. I feel like this was the first classic Steve Robinson episode, because you had my Good Man, which was a Dave Cullinane produced episode. That was probably the first classic KMS where Blind Mike and Kirk, this is to me the first where Steve's starting to peel the onion, starting to he doesn't realize he's being funny when he says that, oh, you must be a Protestant. That's just classic. I miss Steve Robinson right there. That is because he doesn't know. He's like, why are you guys laughing so hard? He doesn't realize
he's the weirdest person in America. I think it's weird every so often. No, Steve Robinson is an idol compared to Gus. He is the weirdest thing in the world. And there's so many examples just in this episode.
Agreed. So this is why this is definitely towards the end turns into a Blind Mike episode, but this is I remember thinking the first episode of whoa, Steve's out there.
Yeah,
Steve's fucking out there.
Well,
so Danny, I know you're a big Steve guy. Go ahead.
especially when they get into the religious stuff. But yeah, it is funny because you can see Kirk kind of hits a nerve with him a little bit. And yeah, there's so much crazy shit. In this episode, I had to keep reminding myself that he's now out busting Chinese weed dens in Maine. I mean, just the fact that's the same guy, I just do a double take every once in a while because he sounds more like Simply Steve from The Hammer in this. There's a lot of that little back and forth with Mike, and this whole thing with the Protestant, and because actually that's a joke that my grandfather would have told, to make fun of, just like a little religious back and forth banter. Just not really that funny, but kind of, and the delivery just being so dry.
I think he forgets, it's Danny. I think he forgets he's with like Kirk and Mike. Like I think he thinks he's with like his buddies, like his rural Maine buddies, and he'll make that joke, and he would have got laughs. He probably would have got laughs.
Kirk and Mike should understand that joke.
So understand, yes, that.
But it's like
he's like, what do you mean you don't?
No one understands that joke. Like no one.
That's true.
True. Be like, what was the comedy duo from Maine? The old school,
Oh God, I forget.
Mike and Leo or whatever. Abe and Louie.
I know you're talking about Danny. I know you're talking about.
You're right. His friends would have found it hilarious. But to circle back around, can I hit the Larry Johnson story real quick?
So that's why. So for everyone who's like listening again, this is the episode where Kirk tells the whole story. He's told it a bunch of times, so I didn't want to play the clip of him like telling the story. But go ahead, Danny, if you want to clarify.
And the story of itself, I mean, to your point, Dave, if you're not an EEI old school guy, it's not that interesting. It's really funny when you know the characters involved. So, and just the fact it stems from talking about Larry Johnson, the running back, and his tweets.
Yes.
Like I found that part interesting, but going back to LJ from EEI and telling that whole story. So to Kirk's point, he was talking about the Mustard and Johnson show. It was on Saturdays. And Craig Mustard, definitely an asshole. He was famously a Yankees fan on a Boston network, so that was a big deal. So
and wasn't he a teacher?
He was a teacher. He'd talk about how he was a teacher all the time. He's so full of himself. But it made the show fun because him and Larry kind of go back and forth. And like Kirk said, you could tell Larry was a really nice guy. And it was the perfect show, like Saturday afternoon, drinking a beer, cleaning out your garage, or mowing the lawn, like whatever. I'd throw it on in the background, and once in a while they'd say something interesting. Usually it was just stupid shit, but perfect.
But usually it's a very boring, bland background noise show. Agreed.
I loved it though. I mean, I love that kind of stuff. So so there's a lot of Larry Johnsons. Of course, you get the basketball Larry Johnson. Now, famously, it was the name of Jim Gaffigan's character in Super Troopers, Mr. Larry Johnson, who got pulled over. Yep. So shout out Daver. But this LJ was, a minister once again. That's right. Don't speed and hands free. And so he basically tweeted out this like hardcore Asian porn link. And and this is the part of the story I don't get. Two things. One thing they bring up, which is how do you do that? It's like, oh, I want to share with my friends this, this hooker getting split open that I want everybody to see what
they have changed that. Like you can't just
it's not just like put it on it's like put it on share on MySpace or whatever.
Friends.
Yeah, Facebook.
Check it out. This is really cool for jerking off.
Yeah.
So that was a whole issue. But then LJ, because Kirk retweeted it. I don't think you could quote tweet at the time. I think you just retweeted it.
Yep.
So then Larry Johnson blamed Kirk for the original tweet, which always cracked me up. And I always thought he was joking. Like Kirk always took it seriously. Like, I don't know. I feel like
he absolutely thinks that Kirk retweeting it went out to a bigger audience. He probably tried deleting it right away. So I think he blames Kirk for it going more viral than
okay. Yeah. But it was still his fault for tweeting it.
100%, but he blamed Kirk. Like it was Kirk's fault that it got bigger than what it was. And Kirk sees that he's not supposed to retweet that. I mean, that's an automatic retweet. Like what the fuck are we doing here?
Exactly. It's hilarious, and that's the thing. It's like you think,
especially coming from that Bible thumping dude on Saturday afternoon,
which made it hilarious because he'd be like, "Well, Jesus loves you, and it's really great, and he loves the Red Sox, and they're going to win the World Series." It was dreadful, but he just was a very likable guy. His cartoons were not funny, but they were so funny, not funny. They were kind of funny. Yeah. Anyway, that show was fun at times in small doses.
Well, I will say this though, Danny, that was the time when it was just EEI. There was no 98.5. So it's like if you wanted to some sports takes, like they were as big as if you were a sports radio listener, you knew who Mustard and Johnson were. Mm-hmm. Right now, no one would be able to tell you who the Saturday person is. Like no one knows, right? So, Go ahead, Danny. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say just real quick, and one of my favorite parts and sort of the nostalgic part of it is this is back before it was like early internet, so there wasn't like a lot of fact checking going on. There wasn't Twitter interaction during the show. I mean, I think their show ended up in that era, but mostly when I was listening, it was early on enough where there wasn't a lot of that. And there was a lot of stuff they didn't really know. Like they would just kind of, it was very Eddie Inman, just kind of make shit up. Oh yeah, didn't the New York Giants play in 3 stadiums in the last 500 years? Yeah, sure, I think so. I don't know.
It used to drive me insane. It would drive me insane.
So much. Yeah, I'd be yelling at the radio like, "Yo, you fucking moron!" Like that's not, Yeah. So, but it would like now listening back to it, I kind of miss that because now it's like you get fact check in 2 seconds if you say something wrong.
David, you don't think somebody drove by you while you were pulled over? That's why somebody knows.
John, that has got to be it. That's my working theory, but no one would tell me how they got this.
We'd be in trouble if we didn't ask the questions, but that's my first thought. That or
no, I DM'd
you didn't tell anyone you got pulled over immediately, but then why would you be saying this? So yeah, I about it.
Has anyone sent you? What would be best is if you get a photo of yourself getting pulled over. I still think it could be there could be a plant in the Seekonk Police Department.
That's what I mean.
It's just
they're everywhere.
They're everywhere. They gave me the town, so it wasn't a random thing. Like
or this cop recognized you and he totally played it straight. I mean, this guy.
I don't know.
Maybe he's a method actor.
But John, my initial theory is it's Steve from Providence.
Yeah, because you're in traffic, so that means tons of people driving by.
Yeah. Right. So that's my initial thought, John, and that's what I said to him. I go, hey, did you drive by me? And he goes, people everywhere, man. You just got to be careful.
Yeah.
That's what he said to me.
Sorry for just blowing up the episode with that.
I mean, at least you weren't hammered, like doing the freaking walking a line or something.
No. It was 11:30 in the morning. We were good.
This guy gave him propaganda and said, "Go ahead, boy. Go ahead. Just preach."
Daver's like, "Make sure you catch Quantum Kirk 8 p.m. on Thursdays on the KMS."
He's like, "Dude, I do a show. I could help you guys out. I can help you out, officer."
Yeah, I was like, I'll spread the word, man. I'll spread the word like you read about.
All right.
I almost ratted out Cullinane. I was like, honestly, if you want to catch someone, you should drive up to the South Shore.
He beats his kids, dude. He beats his kids.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the end of that. That was the what were we talking about? The Larry Johnson, and then no, that's okay. It was funny. And then the Steve Robinson, like that Protestant joke right there. I was like, John, we have to play
Protestant joke just stays throughout the whole show. They just try
the whole show.
At separate parts, like they drive it into the ground. It's great.
Yes, they call it back on numerous times. The next part of the show, Danny, that really got me going was this was the beginning of K Marco. Re-listening to this, knowing what we know now, Kirk is like, "Do you think K Marco's sabotaging us?" He didn't post a blog post. And Steve read the whole blog post to Kirk, and there was nothing in there. And it wasn't published. And they're like, and Blind Mike is still very Mr. Barstool at this point, where he's like, no, like he's defending them. He's saying, they must be, it's Friday before Labor Day. No one's at work. And, K Marco wouldn't do that. Like he's just probably not there today and no one's around to publish it. Now, this is after the Ben Albright situation. So now they have to have their blog posts proofread. But Steve's blog was just basically describing the show, right, Danny? Am I wrong there?
Yeah, so this was a fun throwback because it was fun.
Boo!
I'm so gay.
So gay.
But basically, like back in the day, they would actually. So Steve would write up the whole description of the episode and post it just like a blog on barstoolsports.com.
Yeah.
And typically it would just get posted. So the fact that the show from the day before hadn't been posted on the blog, which is funny because I think it's been years since they've done that. But it just wasn't getting posted. And one of the references did you notice was because Kirk Minihane told Stephen Shea to go play in traffic.
Yep.
Because he was mad at him about
time is a flat circle.
The ad reads. Yeah, here we are.
Here we are.
Almost 5 years later.
That's hilarious.
Time is a flat circle. So it's funny to hear that though, that whole part about K Marco and them, like, is he a saboteur? Is he, and he ended up being someone who, like, he definitely was probably not posting it on purpose.
I have some sound of this. Do you want to listen?
Yeah, please. Go ahead.
Thank you, Steve. So yeah, I don't.
My theory is, and I know I defend Barstool too much, but my theory is that it wasn't malicious and that
I'll
it was
say
an oversight.
I'm going to agree with that. I'm going to say if it was, then we've got like kind of
Then there's a problem.
We've got a real issue, don't we?
Then there's a problem. Because then it's like if the blog post isn't getting posted on the site where new people can see it, then it's like what's happening?
Right.
What's the
and
point?
The date was but it went up the day before though, right? That was
Yes,
fine.
after I rewrote it.
Oh, the day before that was the Louis C.K. thing.
Yeah.
But it went up though.
Oh,
Yeah.
So that's 2 days in a row. I didn't realize that.
No,
I was thinking it was Tuesday, Thursday.
Not 2 days in a row. After the Louis C.K. thing, we did get a blog post up eventually for that.
Right.
Yeah. So this is just the This
Okay.
This is the second time that we've encountered the problem.
Do you think I'm being naive here? Because it just doesn't feel. No.
I don't-
What do you think, Steve?
Well, this is the first week under the new rules, because after the whole Albright thing, we weren't bumping the podcast onto the front page because we were just laying a little low.
Right.
And then we come back, and the blog posts now have to be submitted for K. Marco's review. Whereas there was a brief time after Francis left where that happened, but it wasn't always the case.
Can you text K. Marco right now or no?
I don't have his phone number. I can email him.
Okay. I'm just curious. I'd be curious.
No, I mean I should.
I don't
have
think
his
I've
phone
ever
number.
spoken to him. I don't think.
Well, one of the issues is they've never sat down and said, "Hey, this is our style guide. This is what we do with blog posts or anything like that." They just said, "Here's your login information. Go ahead." So
Ooh.
Yeah, so he's, Kirk's initial feeling was correct, right, Danny? You want to say it? Go ahead.
It was Kirk was right, and
There it
here's
is.
obviously long term he was.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is, if memory serves, this is less than 2 weeks before the Michael Jackson Dice Clay.
Yeah, that's Clay.
The Andrew Dice Clay. K. Marco not posting the blog causing the big blow up. That was, I believe,
Yep.
like September 10th, September 11th, 2019.
And they
So-
talk about Dice Clay later in this episode.
They do.
that
They
he's
mention
coming to town
He was coming to I believe the Chevalier Theater in Medford, Mass.
in Medford, Mass. Yep.
Yeah, lining up for that appearance. So this is about to come to a head before it comes to a head. But yeah, this is definitely foreshadowing at its finest.
Yep. And now we're gonna segue, guys, into the last two parts of this episode, which is the meat on the bone, the reason we're here. Let's stop effing around. Okay. Danny, are they aunts or are they ants? God damn it.
Some are aunts, some are ants.
Yeah, I
just
stand with
depends.
Steve Robinson.
Do you really? All right, let's have this debate. Let's play the clip
Let's let that
and then
clip.
we'll have the debate. Okay. This is just chef's kiss.
What does that mean?
What do you mean?
Like you have Aunt Judy, but you have Aunt Rhonda.
Why?
Just the way it is.
What?
What's orange backwards?
What was your mom's? What do you call your? If your mom had a sister, what would you call her?
Aunt.
Aunt.
Okay, not aunt.
No.
Right. Okay.
Well, I mean,
But that's a Massachusetts thing.
I have aunts and I have aunts.
What does that mean?
What do you mean?
Like you have Aunt Judy, but you have Aunt Rhonda.
Why?
Just the way it is.
Wait, who?
The fuck are you talking
what?
about?
What are you, Larry Johnson? What are you talking about?
You have just aunts or just aunts?
What?
Huh?
Like I have an aunt who's not even related to me, but she's an aunt. But I also have aunts.
What the fuck are you talking about, man?
Where am I? What happened? Am I alive? Is this purgatory?
What's the difference?
You mean there are people? No, I'm gonna try and solve this.
What about Rhonda makes her more of an aunt than
Judy? Judy?
Just the way it's always
what
been
you're
said.
saying is that these particular people may be from areas of the country where they're called ants.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah, I don't know. I just never questioned it. It's just how you grow up.
I thought you meant like.
What do you? Oh,
I thought you
different,
meant
like different
Judy
rankings?
embodies an aunt.
And Rhonda's an ant?
Rhonda's merely an aunt.
It's how it's how
Well,
it's
where
said.
is? Do you have who's Judy?
She's on my mom's side.
Oh, I understand, but is she aunt or aunt? I don't care about her.
She's aunt.
Okay. Why is that? Where is she? Where does she live?
You know Judy. Come on. She's a
Everybody's in
classic
Maine.
aunt.
So everybody's in Maine.
Yes, everybody's in
So
Maine.
that makes no sense then.
Maybe it's mother's side is more aunts.
I
Dad's side is more
like that he
aunts.
said he agreed just to get this over with. He's like, oh yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe there's from different parts of the country. They're from the same
They're
town.
from different counties in Maine. Well, where's Rhonda from?
Well, I mean, it's like
Is
you have-
Rhonda from your dad's side?
You have Graham, Gramp, Grammy,
but that's
Granny,
different.
that kind
That's
of thing.
different.
No,
That's
it's
different,
It's just
you
colloquial
idiot.
name-
That's what
it's
a kid
colloquial names
says
for
to-
family members.
What the fuck are you talking
No,
about?
it's
It
not.
could be any more different. It's not possibly more
They're
different
just,
than
it's
that.
just informal names for family members.
No, it's different
No.
pronunciation of the same word.
Right.
That'd be like if you called your your mom's dad grandpa, right?
Yeah.
And you called your dad's dad like
Grampy.
grandpa. Or
Yeah,
like you used the actual word differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I mean, all right. Listen, Steve, John, you hit the nail on the head earlier, and he did it again. He thinks they're retarded for not knowing. Not knowing that aunts and aunts are like that's just the way it is. He thinks they're retarded.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, Danny.
It's the explanation more than anything. And Kirk even says at one point, like, look, if you have aunts and aunts, hang on, John, I'll get to you.
No explanation needed, sir. None.
No, there's a very simple explanation if it's true, which is okay. You have some aunts that say it this way, some aunts that say it that way. I have an aunt from, but no, here's my point. I have an aunt from Wisconsin. She says aunt, I still call her aunt. But at least that explanation, at least there's like differences in dialect and where you're from and accents and whatnot. But Steve specifically says, no, they're all in Maine. And then he tries to pull the French thing. Well, aunt in French is tante. You know, so it's pronounced like an aunt. Like so aunt, like no one. It just these explanations make no sense.
I wish we could have clipped the whole thing. It's 20 minutes long. Like it's
it is. It's great.
Oh, it just comes back and back. Like it's like he wants to say like aunts are white trash and aunts are like fancy. And
yes,
you earn aunts. That's basically
what he said. Yeah. So I will say this, but John, this is why we have this show. People need to go back and re-listen to this goddamn episode.
It's like
you have to. Like we play a clip. I would love to, like John just said, play the whole 20 minutes. It's phenomenal. But go back and re-listen, please, please, please. Danny, Kirk says a line to Steve towards the end after this like little rant where he says to him, and I quote, "You're a really smart guy, but you are really fucking stupid a lot. Like you're stupid a lot." Like, and this is one of those occasions where, because Steve is arguing with, like, Kirk turns to Mike and he goes, "Mike, am I crazy here?" And Mike goes, "No, man, I'm fucking lost. Like, this is my brain's in a pretzel. I don't even know what this guy's talking about."
Oh yeah, the Mike line where he sounds actually like stoned for a second. He's like,
"So yes,
man, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about."
No,
I mean he has.
You say it at that point. You're just like, well, I'm out of things to say.
Yeah, because he's arguing with them. He's literally arguing with them. Like he's like, "Why are you guys making this a big deal?" And they're like, "We're not making it a big deal, Steve. It's just we're trying to comprehend why you would call one of your mom's, because he says they're all his mom's sisters.
Yeah,
that's the best part,
right?
So he's like, why would you call one of you? Yeah, why would you call one of your mom's sisters Aunt Judy and the other one's Aunt Rhonda? Like why? I don't understand.
You're going to defend this, John?
I am.
Okay,
go ahead.
I have no reasoning, just like Steve Robinson at all. Like he says just because it is, that's the way it is.
That's what he says. That's literally what he says.
In Maine, and then Danny's right. He goes, well, if you don't know if you have people from France or Canada, like it's like Steve. So I'm taking his side. Done.
Yeah, done. Okay, good reasoning, John.
It's so ridiculous that it's just right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I
good as explanation as any.
Protestants. That's why.
So can we flip it to like what's going on with the show now? I know we've been doing that a lot lately. So like that's part of this show.
Okay.
I think the hiring of Kirk brought this up a lot when he hired Coleman. When he's like, okay, I get it. He's new to the show, but so is Steve. We don't know what he is. He's not like Montante was a character. John, you've been on enough streams. People knew who you guys were, so to speak. Okay,
I think he fits in perfectly. I think we're starting to peel back those layers.
Okay, so this is what I'm getting to. Yeah. So I feel like him hiring Coleman, it's like, oh well, we didn't know about Steve. That's always the thing that we go back to, right? Like, oh, we didn't know Steve was like Steve, right? This is the beginning of it. Listen, I'm not saying Coleman can't get there. I'm not saying Coleman's like bad or anything like that. I'm not criticizing.
On the record.
But re-listening to this fucking episode, I'm telling you, if you think you're finding another Steve Robinson, if you think Coleman is just going to spew something like this out of his fucking mouth, there's no way. There's no chance.
No.
Because Steve, this was natural. Like this was, John, do you have the clip of how this whole conversation started?
Yeah, like all this stuff. Coleman's a weird motherfucker, dude. I think Coleman's fitting in this spot.
Oh, I'm not criticizing him. I'm just saying, listening to this, I just don't know if there's another weird brain like a Steve Robinson.
I don't.
That's all I'm saying.
I think you're right there.
That's all I'm saying. Like
Robinson
listening
rules.
to this,
Robinson rules. That's. I will be
You
honest.
know.
I mean, he was the hardest person to deal with. Like he was the best. He was the best.
John, do you have the clip I sent you of how this whole conversation fucking started? It's
Yeah, I'll put it in. I'll put it in right here.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
That's just my guess because it's before the holiday and shit.
So I'll just email him today and ask what's going on because I mean, there's no sense in writing blog posts if they're not going to post something.
Yeah, I mean, there's
as
not. But there's
sterile as
two in a
that.
week. Yeah,
There's nothing. What is that?
Sterile.
Sterile.
sterile. Yeah.
That's how you say it?
No.
Oh, sterile?
It can be either.
Who the fuck says that?
It can be either.
No, but I think
either. You're an idiot. Sterile?
yeah, I think that's how the British say it.
Oh well, excuse us.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Pish posh.
Did you say you go to the loo yesterday when you had to go take a piss during the show? Sterile?
May I go wee?
Is that really your concern right
Is that
now?
how you say it for real?
Is that really your concern?
What am I going to do about the other thing? I mean,
This we can fix.
yeah.
This we can nip in the bud.
Okay, sterile.
Do you say sterile though?
I have, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Nobody says you're a douche.
I like
You ever heard that word used like that?
I like that he says I have. Like, yeah, I dip my toe in sometimes.
Sterile and sterile.
sterile. So literally,
He's being
That's where it
sterile.
starts. That's where
he's
it's
being sterile. That's how this whole thing. They went on for 20 minutes, and I think Kirk at the end goes, "What the fuck are we talking about?" And then Mike goes, "Sterile or sterile?" And he's like, "Jesus Christ! If Steve just said sterile, what would we even be bringing up right now?" And that's what Steve Robinson.
They say that. And Mike is like, thank you for Steve. Like, thank God. Like, they gave you 40 minutes of Steve right there because he's such a weird brain.
And
because he said sterile instead of sterile.
Yeah.
And that's why this is the show about nothing, because what other show is going to spend that much time on that and then move to another word and argue about that for 20 minutes?
Yeah. It's unbelievable. This was a classic where like Steve's brain, and I love the fact that he doesn't think he's weird. He thinks you're weird.
He thinks he's supreme, actually. Like he thinks he's like he thinks he's above you at all times. That's why
at all times.
It's just because he's tall. Like he's tall and he thinks he's supreme.
Yeah. Danny, anything else from that whole 20 minutes that like got you that tickled your fancy?
No, I mean that just the whole thing just
tickled my fancy.
Yeah, my fancy was quite tickled.
I mean, Blind Mike had some phenomenal lines. This was Blind Mike got into his element here. He got into his pocket. He was like him and
next
Kirk
level this episode, especially later.
Yeah, we still have the best by Mike you could get. So
Oh, of course. But I'm just saying this, like, if you go back and re-listen, which I encourage everyone to do, it is Blind Mike and Kirk. Like, okay, we have a common enemy. We're gonna make fun of Steve now. Like, let's go.
It was his job to do that at this time. Like he was part of the show. Like Mike was working basically for the show.
Yes, and I think he's about to get paid.
He's a day away from a contract, allegedly.
Yeah, a day away from a contract. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
this
like,
weekend.
He was like meeting with Steve to get things done and shit. So it's like a whole different Mike. It's great.
Yep. All right. Speaking of a whole different Mike,
yeah,
we're getting to this is once again a Mount Rushmore Blind Mike segment episode, whatever you want to break it down to. Let's get into it. My personal first favorite character ever. This is when I became a certified, knock me over the head gearhead. I remember where I was when this came on. I remember pretty much the whole bit. I've re-listened to this part at least 3 or 4 times before today. Go ahead, John. Play my buddy Lil Alex Jones.
Deep and meaningful. You have your Protestant Catholic debates, and then you have the debate that they're having now.
I thought because it's a gambling show that maybe it would be different than everything else on there.
Were you wrong?
Well, let's find out.
Okay, this is called You Better.
All right, You Better You Bet, radio.com sports original, the first ever nightly sports betting podcast.
Hold
Nick
on.
Costos along with Joe Ostrowski.
Hold on.
Alex Jones's son.
Slow down. Yeah, I was going to say. It's like,
You Better You Bet here on radio.com.
What's the name of the show? I'm sorry to hear that.
You Better You Bet.
I was going to say, was that Alex Jones from like 1984?
Yeah. Before he got real gravelly, yeah.
This is my new favorite personality. Who is this person? Why did we not start the show with this?
It's fifth grade Alex Jones.
Hey, fifth grade Alex Jones. What do you think about the fluoride they're putting in the water?
It's unbelievable, and you can bet on that, my friend. It's a false flag operation.
This is 1986. We're joined here by sixth grader Alex Jones is joining us right now. Alex, the Challenger explosion, clearly just a basic malfunction, right? There's nothing more conspiratorial.
Well, you're not going to learn about that in history class.
Are you saying that, well, I mean...
Try to take a social studies class where they teach you about that here.
1981 here, we're joined by Alex Jones. He's 4 years old. The president was shot today. Alex, clearly it was just Hinckley, right? I mean, this was not a conspiracy.
If you believe he was shot at all, Kirk, and he's not in Belize right now.
A day away from getting paid. Sorry.
That's okay.
So Mike is, like Danny said, a day away from getting paid. How good is Mike feeling when he gets the belly laugh from Kirk? When you get Kirk to belly laugh like that, how good is that feeling, Danny? What do you feel?
Well, I've never actually pulled it off, but I'm sure it feels great. No, and this just goes on, and I think this is where Mike really shines. And we talk a little bit about pre-fencing Mike and post and how he's changed at times. This episode was pre-fencing Mike, but in a post post, literally pre,
confident.
No,
acting
I don't
post. There
know.
you go.
I don't know.
You don't know. You don't understand. It just is what it is.
It is what it is.
So and this is where he actually does this. He still does it on the show at times. And this is where, if you're a Blind Mike Project fan, he and Craig do a very good job of this. When they just latch onto a topic and do the back and forth, spitball, improvise. And he's, as far as I could tell, he's been good at this for a long time. Like, I think he's gotten better at everything as he's become more of a broadcaster and had more reps under his belt, whatnot. But this is something I think this is where his talent lies, because only so many people can sit there and pull out lines that continue to make Kirk and everybody laugh.
I'd say his lines are better than Kirk's in this segment.
In this one, Mike was next level. But Kirk, this is part of Kirk's brilliance. He recognized
Kirk played the straight man.
He started lobbing up the softballs, and Mike was like hammering them. And then he was hammering enough of them. When he missed one, it was funny. And then he'd go back.
It's so funny.
At one point, Mike would be like, "What's that again?"
Yeah. What's that? He would stop it, and then Kirk even goes, I think Kirk says to him, he goes, "When you say what's that again? Is that you searching for lines, little Alex Jones?" Yep.
Yeah, I did a stream with little Alex Jones, and Courtney Fallon. He's a great guy.
Nick Costas.
Yeah, he's the great dude. He talks exactly like that. Exactly.
So I will say I remember the aftermath of this. He played along. He was cool. He interacted on Twitter.
Yeah.
He didn't take personal to it. Like, he was even, he played along. So he was a good person. Now, let me tell everyone what Better You Bet is, Danny. We need to go break that down. So this is the era of the show where they're doing, reviewing a lot of bad, like, radio and podcast shows. And this is on the radio.com lineup with Swings and Misses, Scallon Pals,
Big Time Baseball.
All those Big Time Baseball. They played Josh Lewin sound earlier in this episode, if you go back and listen. So, like, this is when they're doing a lot of this, especially at the end of shows, because we're not doing phone calls. Remember,
phone calls. It's
no phone calls.
Like the end of the show thing.
This is an end of show thing. Yep, this is how we're going to end our show. They would listen to bad radio or review bad radio. I have a question. If we ever had Blind Mike on here, or if he listens, he was very quick with that little Alex Jones. I'm wondering, because he listened to this Better You Bet, I wonder if this was a pre-planned Blind Mike bit where he was ready to go with that voice.
Well, they had it ready. So, like, they were discussed. That's what I meant when, like, Blind Mike was meeting with Steve and, like,
that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So do you think he had the voice ready to go?
He had to, because you hear this and imagine we heard that. We would all be trying that voice. So he did a great job. He did a great job doing it. Like I said, he was hitting dingers out of the park with this voice.
So, Danny, do you agree with that? You think that wasn't spontaneous? He had that voice, like, pre-planned?
I felt like, there was definitely a level of spontaneity there. I think
I don't know. I'm 50-50. You could talk me into either one.
But here's what sort of switched my mind a little bit re-listening to this, because like you, I'd listened to this several times before, but it had been a while, so a lot of it I'd forgotten. Steve Robinson mentions, Blind Mike, has listened to a lot of Alex Jones, and think at that point he was serious. Like, I'm not sure if he's still a major Alex Jones listener. I think sometimes he'd almost listen ironically. But
like, you're listening to hours and hours of bad radio,
right?
And then you hear this, you're like,
it was sort of an amalgamation of actual, Alex Jones versus just all the crap he'd been listening to. So I mean, I think it sounds like Mike had already heard that show, so he kind of planted a seed there. But I don't think and obviously he formed it more during the actual, improv and, on the.
Also, Mike's a dummy. I can't imagine he thought of something in advance and like it had any sense of being, you know what I mean? Like, let's not give him too much credit here. He's not.
I don't know, but I would say that if he came up with it on the spot, that's giving him a ton of credit because it was very quick. He was right away, just like boom, into the voice. Like it's literally the first 10 seconds.
That just proves he's heard it before. Like, I don't know. That's good question.
Yeah, that's all. I'm wondering if it was something where, because like I know he listened to Kirk hadn't listened to it. Kirk, that was the first time Kirk,
right?
They made that, but Steve and Mike had clearly listened to it before. So I guess my question would be to Mike was it a pre-planned like voice bit, or did he hear that voice in that moment, got inspired, and just went right in? Because he was 5 seconds right after Nick Costa spoke that first sentence and Kirk stopped the tape. Mike went right into the voice, right into it.
I'm going to give him benefit of the doubt. I think he thought of it on the spot.
Me too. I actually do too. I do too.
John says he's a dummy and he couldn't. He was not.
There's zero chance.
We'll put it to a vote when we finally get Mike on.
Yeah. All right. So, Danny, go ahead. This goes on for like 20 minutes. It's fucking brilliant. It's probably one of my favorite. Any other lines that jumped out at you that you want?
What I liked is we've heard the Turn of the Frog's gay. We've heard that line so much.
The forerun.
That goes down the list.
It was, and it seemed new to Kirk. So I don't, maybe just because this is 2019, if it was just something that we hadn't heard a million times at that point, because Kirk seemed genuinely amused. Whereas if you pulled that out now, it'd be like, yeah, that's like the Alex Jones line, that and Sandy Hook. So I do think there was, that one cracked me up. It cracked me up that Kirk seems so generally amused by that line.
And then also, I think something else that cracked me up too is Steve Robinson, once again being Steve Robinson, not really knowing like comedic timing yet, kept correcting like little Alex Jones's takes and being like, well, no, the real Alex Jones.
Do you really know what he thinks about the moon landing?
The moon landing, and Kirk finally goes, Steve, shut the fuck up. We're doing a bit here.
Steve said to end this great episode he's having with little Alex. We get it, Steve. You could dunk.
We know what Alex. We get it, Steve. You listen to a lot of Alex Jones, and these are his real thoughts. And Kirk goes like, I don't think Mike really needs to know what the real Alex Jones thinks to do this. So that was a part that got me, Danny.
And that's when Steve said, well, he listens to Alex Jones, so he actually knows. But then, then he pretended like he didn't know about the moon landing. One other little thing that came up at me too, he referenced that Boston market, giving out 2,000 pounds of mac and cheese, which I think was referenced on an earlier episode because that was from a Greg Hill ad, which then Mike brought it back around to Cullinane getting mad because somebody said that Greg Hill had sold more mac and cheese than Cullinane had sold ads.
Yes.
Kirk said for the Safe Like ad they were doing, he said, I will personally break into your home and see if you're safe. It's like
Simply Safe reads, by the way.
Simply
the double read, featured sponsor.
Other than Milton's, I think Simply Safe has probably been with Kirk the longest at this point. They just
sponsor everything. Barstool, they're everywhere.
Yeah. But so listen, folks, we just played some clips. This is an all-time episode for me. Especially, like I said, the Alex Jones part. I laughed today. I've heard it multiple times. I've heard these jokes, and I still, once again, was laughing my ass off, even after the cop let me go, because that's what I was listening to as well. After he let me go.
Don't text and drive, folks.
Don't text and drive, but you can listen. You can listen and drive.
Not texting and not driving.
Don't text and drive. But so please listen to this episode. It's really, really good. Danny, I have a couple of small nuggets in here that I always like to bring up. Anything that you have that you want to bring up before we end this thing?
I had a couple just quick ones because I think we hit on a lot of this, but there were a lot of hidden nuggets in this one. So again, this is worth.
Let's see if we got the same ones.
This is worth a full re-listen. So we had some cancel culture in here, and this is one that I kind of go back and forth on once in a while. I always associate that sort of, early COVID, summer of discontent in 2020 with a lot of this, tearing down statues and whitewashing history and all that
Good
shit.
call, Danny.
There's quite a bit of this in this one. And first one was I guess sort of tangential to that was a Joe Biden lie about, pinning a Navy captain. And I don't even remember that one. That was one that had got brought up then, but there've been, enough since then that it sort of, went down the list. But, he brought up this whole thing about, what about Jefferson owning slaves and all this about history. And, there was quite a bit of that in this episode. And I thought that was, again, I think I sometimes in my misguided reflection of history, just because it's been such a fucked up couple of years, I
you
just
think
keep
it's all
thinking so much of this
2020?
was like, oh, this was all 2020 when all the shit started going to hell. No, it started going to hell well before that, because even the Barstool Breakfast clip they played was a guy calling up asking about the pussification of America. And then Willie got accused of bullying, and he basically admitted, I used to bully people on the football field. And this is when Kirk and Willie were going back and forth and doing their thing.
He blocked Steve Robinson and the show and not Kirk.
But not Kirk and not Blind Mike, which Blind Mike was offended because Willie didn't block him. Kelly Martin's name gets brought up. Steve had reached out to her.
You took one of mine. You took one of mine.
Nice. To go back to the Dice Clay thing, because they wanted to make sure that they had a chance to get with Dice Clay. So obviously she came through because they did that interview. But Kelly Martin and Kirk's like, okay, you reached out to her 3 weeks ago and nothing, huh? Okay. So once again, another seed of like foreshadowing, like this person's going to become an enemy. She's not quite yet, because I don't know her well enough, sort of in that K Marco territory. And then, obviously quickly that changes. And then the last part I thought, where again, I think Mike was very good in this. You did notice some sensitivity when his mom got brought up.
Nailed it.
Which is interesting because it's months before, the mom at the Thanksgiving table video that you tweeted out the other day, Daver. And, Kirk kept saying, I'm going to ask you a serious question. No, seriously, this is a serious question. Could your mom go to a Jason Aldean concert? And Mike's kind of doing like, is this really a serious question? These guys kind of pushing at him. And then Mike also, this is one of the first times we've heard Mima's name. And Mike mentions that his grandma is
damn you, Danny.
called Mima.
God damn you.
We now have obviously our friend on Twitter that takes that namesake and
who also texted me today. He was one of the ones that was texting me, asking me why I was pulled over. So
I'm glad they're keeping an eye on you. All right, did I leave any for you?
Yeah, you did. You left two, but I had Kelly Martin. I had the Dice Clay interview booking. But Steve ended up booking that. You said she came through. She didn't. It was Steve.
Oh, good memory. Yep. Okay.
Okay. So like that's when it's where Kirk says, "Hey, you checked 3 weeks ago." And it was Steve who ended up reaching out to Dice Clay's people and got him on. You brought up Mike's mom.
Martin, then.
Yeah, you brought up Mike's mom. You nailed that one. The biggest thing I think you missed was, and you brought up Mike's sensitivity, so I thought you were going to steal all of them from me, is when Kirk brings... Yep, Kirk brings up, this is after the John McAfee interview, okay? And if you remember, that's where Mike asked that ridiculous question of like, something about shit or eating shit or something. Yeah. Peeing in his mouth or something like that. And Kirk goes, listen, people are telling me, And then Steve Robinson jumps in and goes, oh, so people on Twitter. And he goes, no, fans of Mike. Fans of Mike told me personally that they like Mike on the show. They want him to keep coming in. But that maybe for interviews, he sucks. and that person, we come to later find out, if I put the dots together, is Ryan Minihane.
Ooh.
Because he said because he says Ryan is a known Blind Mike fan. Ryan rooted for Blind Mike. Who else would Kirk be talking to? Like, who else would Kirk allow to talk to him about that if it's not Steve Robinson and it wasn't someone on Twitter? Because Kirk made it clear it wasn't a person on Twitter. So I think he was talking to his brother, and his brother was criticized. And Mike got really defensive. He's like, well, I never said I was going to interview you. Blah, blah. And Kirk was like, calm down. He had to tell him that. He goes, calm down. And then that's when they segue into the Dice Clay interview, and he's like, would you like to be here for that? And then famously, I would like to review that episode maybe at some point. Mike just was railroaded in that interview. I think Dice Clay cut him off. Dice Clay cut him off like what, 5-6 times easily in that interview. So it's funny to re-listen to this, and Mike was like, I'm not really into John McAfee. I wasn't a big fan of his. Maybe that's why I wasn't good. But if you interview comics, I'll be better. And then obviously, I think after that Dice Clay one, I think Kirk basically shut Mike's mic off whenever they did interviews after that. If I'm not, am I right on that or?
more or less, and there also haven't
Yeah.
been a ton of interviews since then. But yeah, now that Mike has his own platform where he can, kind of explore that creatively, I think that's been part of it. But also, it is interesting to tie into our 2 episodes ago where Mike got lambasted for being a shitty interviewer with Josh.
Josh,
yeah, definitely a common theme there.
Which is the one that's
very good catch, Dave.
Yeah, so that was the only one I think you left out. Everything else you said, because I had it on my list as well too. So good job, Danny. All right, boys, we're at about an hour.
Good job.
I think we're done here. Yeah. Thank you. And then once again, folks, hands-free driving, it's the law. Okay,
that's right.
The law.
It's 2023. Buy
right.
some fucking Bluetooth and a thing to hang your phone on.
Yeah, that's kind of what he told me. That's what he told me. But all right, guys.
Time to trash the 93 Nissan Sentra, Daver.
No, it's I don't have the Bluetooth. It's old enough to where I don't have the Bluetooth, but I do have the thing. I just didn't put it in the thing. It's dumb. Okay. But
that's what you said.
Cop was just fucking figure it out.
Yeah, Steve from Providence Sneakers. Thank you for stalking me. I guess I don't know.
I can't wait for an update on this. I wonder. I might see some Twitter activity later.
Yeah. All right, boys.
Nothing to do with
gentlemen.
Thank you.
Have a good night.